You are not broken. You are not worthless. You are simply exhausted from carrying a mind that has never been set down. Each day you wake with a sense of disorientation, as if every thought circles endlessly through a maze with no exit. And you ask yourself, what have I missed? The truth is, you are not lacking in willpower. You have simply not yet found the right way of thinking to unlock your inner strength. Stoic philosophy does not promise to erase every hardship, but it does place a compass in your hands, so you can walk through any storm without losing yourself. When you understand that you cannot control the world, but you can master your own response, you begin to reclaim the deepest form of freedom. Today, we will explore the core principles that will guide you not only to think rightly, but to live rightly. Starting with the first. 1. Look beyond the present moment. We live in an age that glorifies speed and instant gratification. Slogans like "Live for today" and "Enjoy the moment" are everywhere, from motivational posters to the endless scroll of social media captions. On the surface, the idea seems positive. A reminder to value the present and not be haunted by the past or anxious about the future. But look closer and you'll see a hidden risk. When we focus only on the now and ignore the bigger picture, we easily make choices that satisfy immediate emotions while neglecting long-term consequences. This not only traps us in meaningless cycles, but also erodes our ability to build a solid foundation for the future. Stoic philosophy does not deny the importance of the present. It does not urge us to live for the future so much that we forget this moment. But it understands that every action we take now is a seed planted in the field of tomorrow, and the wise choose their seeds carefully rather than plucking whatever fruit is already within reach. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the mind must be able to direct itself toward what endures. For those who fixate only on what is before them will soon be swept away by the tides of emotion and circumstance. Live fully today, but let each choice you make serve something greater than tomorrow. That is how the present and the future align. A long-term mindset requires us to resist the pull of quick rewards. Human brains are wired for instant gratification, an instinct that once ensured survival. But in the modern world, that instinct can cut both ways. It tempts us toward the easy path, to accept small, short-term outcomes instead of persevering for something greater and more enduring. The Stoics understood that to travel far, you need a clear vision. Imagine yourself as a rower at sea. If your eyes are fixed only on the waves in front of you, you will be carried away aimlessly. But if you keep your gaze on the lighthouse in the distance, every stroke will have purpose. Applying this mindset means asking different questions. Instead of, "Does this make me happy right now?" ask, "Will this bring me closer to where I want to stand in 5 years?" If the answer is no, have the discipline to adjust. To do that, you must define what you truly want in the future clearly, without vagueness. Once the goal is set, you can shape the steps you take today. One useful method many practice is to start with a vision of the future. Then work backward to build the present. Picture your life in 5 years in vivid detail: your work, health, relationships, finances, even the state of mind you wish to have when you wake up. Then break it down into goals for the 4th year, the 3rd, and so on, down to the 1st year, and then into months, weeks, and days. With a map this clear, each action in the present gains new meaning. You no longer wake up just to get through the day, but to take one more step in a chosen journey. Patience becomes less about passive endurance and more about a steady trust that events are unfolding as they should. The Stoics saw patience as a form of strength, proof that you understand the value of waiting and working in increments rather than ruining the process to see the results immediately. Most importantly, a long-term mindset frees you from the burden of pointless comparisons. You stop obsessing over quick success or matching someone else's pace. When you know where you're headed, you're not distracted by other people's paths. Every step, no matter how small, matters because it moves you closer to your destination. Delays are no longer failures, but part of the rhythm of growth. Even setbacks become lessons that refine your strategy rather than excuses to quit. Looking beyond the present moment is not about living for the future. While abandoning today, it's about living each day with the awareness that every day is a brick in the building of your future. If you place each brick with care and purpose, you build not only a strong life, but also a deep sense of peace because you know that, storm or not, your path still leads toward the place you have chosen. And that is the first foundation on which true right thinking takes root in your life. 2. Stop complaining, start building. Complaining is one of the easiest habits to form and one of the hardest to break. It often comes naturally, almost instinctively, when we face something unwanted, a sigh, a remark, sometimes a long story about how life is unfair or everything is against me. In the moment, it may bring a sense of relief, as though some weight has been lifted. But look deeper, and you'll see that complaining is only a temporary vent. Afterward, the problem remains, often larger, because our energy for action has already been drained. The Stoics remind us that what lies beyond our control is not worth giving too much of our attention, for it does not belong to us to decide. The only true possession we have is our own mind, our attitude, and our actions. When we choose to focus on blame, we hand our fate over to forces outside ourselves. But when we focus on creating value, we reclaim control not because the world changes, but because we change how we respond to it. Marcus Aurelius made it clear. Our power lies in our ability to govern our own mind. And anyone who loses that becomes a slave to circumstance. Complaining has another hidden cost. It weaves a recurring story in our mind. Each time we retell why we're stuck, we unconsciously strengthen the belief that we truly are stuck. That story becomes part of our identity, and we begin to act as if we have no choice but to accept it. Once this mindset takes root, even opportunities for change are ignored, because deep down, we've already cast ourselves as the victim, not the builder. The Stoics did not deny negative emotions, but they refused to let them dictate their actions. They acknowledged their feelings, accepted them, and then shifted toward solutions. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" they asked, "What can I do with what's happening?" This question immediately opens a path to action. And in action, we find strength because every small step moves us away from helplessness and closer to resolution. Shifting from complaint to action does not require a grand leap. It begins with small, consistent choices. When stuck in difficulty, try asking yourself, "What can I do right now to improve this situation, even by 1%? It might be a call, an email, an idea on paper, or simply starting the work instead of repeating the reasons it can't be done. Small actions, repeated, build a new momentum, replacing the habit of complaining with the habit of creating. This process changes more than just outer results. It reshapes your inner framework. Every time you act instead of complain, you send yourself a clear message. I am capable of shaping reality. Repeated often, this message builds a foundation of confidence and initiative. It allows you to face future challenges with calm because you've already proven the power of taking matters into your own hands. On a deeper level, complaining is simply a disguised delay. It keeps you in the safe zone of words, where you can vent without risking the fear of failure that comes with action. But in truth, it's the avoidance of action that worsens the situation. The Stoics would call it a waste of life, a resource that cannot be renewed. Every minute spent complaining is a minute not spent building, learning, or moving forward. Remember, the world does not reward those who complain or point out problems with elegance. It rewards those who step into the problem and bring forth solutions. That is why true value is born not from noise, but from work done. And to begin, you don't need to change your whole life overnight. You only need a simple commitment from now on. Every time you feel the urge to complain, pause, take a breath, and ask, what can I do right now? Make this a habit, and you'll find you no longer depend on circumstances to feel strong, because that strength has always been within reach, waiting for you to stop speaking and start building. 3. Turn failure into raw material. Most of us were raised to believe that failure is something to be avoided at all costs. It is tied to shame, loss of face, and a perceived drop in status. As a result, when a plan collapses or a goal is missed, many see it as the end, retreating and avoiding another attempt. In truth, failure is not the end, but an inevitable part of growth. It is like a raw ingredient, inedible in its current state, but if processed correctly, it becomes valuable nourishment for progress. The Stoics did not see failure through the lens of humiliation, but through the discipline of training. They understood that each fall is a concrete lesson about personal limits, false assumptions, and the way the world truly works. If noted and applied, these lessons become a strong foundation for the next step. Epictetus put it plainly, the obstacle is not just something in the way, it is the way. Every setback holds within it an opportunity to develop the character and skills needed for the road ahead. The problem is that most people never extract this value, stopping instead at the initial wave of negative emotions. When failure strikes, the natural reaction is disappointment, anger, or self-blame. But if you allow these feelings to fill your mind completely, you lose the energy to analyze and learn. The Stoic approach is different. They allow themselves to feel sadness or frustration for a set time, then intentionally move into analysis. The key is to separate yourself from the identity of "I am a failure" and replace it with "this plan failed." This small shift in language has great power. It reminds you that failure is an event, not your identity. To turn failure into raw material, you must turn it into data. Every misstep carries information: what you misjudged, where your preparation was lacking, how you reacted when conditions worsened, and what you could have done differently. Writing these insights down not only fixes them in memory, but also creates a valuable reference for the future. The next time you face a similar challenge, you won't be starting from zero, but from a refined base of experience. Failure is also a perfect training ground for adaptability. When a strategy stops working, blind persistence only leads to dead ends. Accepting adjustments, changing methods, or trying new directions shows you are not chained to your ego, but are willing to let results guide you. This spirit aligns deeply with Stoic philosophy. Do not cling to what cannot be salvaged. Focus all resources on what still lies within your control. One of the lesser discussed benefits of failure is its ability to build mental resilience. Each time you rise after a fall, you increase your capacity to endure pressure and face uncertainty. This is critical because any great goal carries risks and unpredictable turns. Without having faced failure, you won't know how you'll react when cornered. But after overcoming it multiple times, you enter new challenges with a different posture, calmer, more decisive, less shaken by the storms around you. Still, turning failure into raw material does not mean seeking it out or dismissing preparation. The Stoics did not waste opportunities with reckless action just to see what happens. They prepared thoroughly, acted with full effort, yet accepted that no matter how ready you are, factors beyond your control may still derail the plan. When that happens, they don't see collapse, they see feedback, a necessary loop to refine for the next attempt. Failure becomes true. Failure only when you refuse to learn from it. If you take away something useful, it becomes a quiet victory, one that may not appear immediately but accumulates and reveals its worth over time. So, when you face a setback, remember, this is not the end. It is merely an experiment that didn't yield the desired result. Extract the lesson, keep the experience, and act again. In doing so, you don't just overcome failure, you forge it into the very substance that builds a stronger, wiser version of yourself. 4. Live as a lifelong student. One of the most common mistakes people make is thinking that learning ends the moment they leave school. The diploma becomes a symbol marking the close of intellectual growth, and from then on, many move through life believing they know enough to live and work. But the world does not stand still, and neither does knowledge. Each day brings new concepts, methods, and perspectives that reshape how we work, communicate, and solve problems. If you stop learning, you quickly fall behind, not because you lack intelligence, but because you've allowed yourself to become static in a moving world. The Stoics saw learning as a journey without end. They understood that wisdom must be nourished continually, and that it emerges not from a single flash of insight, but from steady accumulation and adjustment over time. An open mind is the foundation of growth. It not only absorbs new knowledge, but also stands ready to re-examine old beliefs when stronger evidence appears. This demands humility, to admit you don't know everything, and to accept that what you believe today could be proven wrong tomorrow. The Stoics also valued learning that crosses boundaries. When knowledge connects across disciplines, it produces creative solutions that one-track thinking cannot. Lifelong learning is not merely about adding information, it's about expanding how you see the world. Approaching problems from multiple perspectives sharpens analysis and decision-making because you've trained yourself to see the whole field, not just a single corner of it. A key part of continuous learning is self-observation and self-questioning. Regularly ask yourself, what am I accepting blindly? What skills have I neglected? How long have I relied on outdated knowledge without updating it? Such questions protect you from the trap of complacency, one of the greatest enemies of progress. Those aware of their own knowledge gaps see each day as a chance to fill them, even if only slightly. Living as a lifelong student does not mean constantly sitting with books or in formal classes. Learning can happen anywhere in a conversation, in watching someone else solve a problem, or in your own trial and error. The key is to sustain curiosity and openness. When a new idea comes, don't reject it simply because it challenges what you believe. Instead, examine it through the lens of reason and reality. Then decide to keep or discard it based on its true value. The Stoics knew that learning serves not only to sharpen skills for outward success, but also to train the inner self. Knowledge helps you face life's inevitable changes with calm and clarity. Each new thing you learn expands your adaptability and strengthens your belief that you can handle whatever comes, even what you've never faced before. This is a quiet, yet lasting strength, rooted in real ability rather than mere hope. Lifelong learning also requires discipline. Curiosity can spark the process, but discipline sustains it. Make it a habit to dedicate time each day or week to learn something new, however small. It could be reading a few pages, exploring a new concept, or practicing a skill you want to improve. These small investments compound powerfully over time, and one day you'll see you've traveled far from where you began. To live as a lifelong student is to remain ready for change and growth. It keeps you from being trapped in old patterns and keeps your mind agile for new opportunities and challenges. When you choose this path, you don't just expand your knowledge, you continually renew yourself. And in a world that never stops changing, that may be the greatest advantage you can have. 5. The mindset of ownership. The mindset of ownership does not depend on titles, positions, or formal authority. It begins with how you see your role in any task or situation. A person with this mindset does not wait for someone to assign them work before acting. They notice problems themselves, seek solutions themselves, and take full responsibility for the outcome. They do not need to be granted authority to feel accountable, because in their mind, anything that affects the overall result is worth their concern and effort to improve. This is the fundamental difference from the employee mindset, which stops at completing assigned duties without going beyond the set boundaries. Those with an ownership mindset understand that their value does not come from recognition, but from the real impact they create. They do not seek praise to validate themselves. They care about how their contribution has improved the work. This requires seeing beyond immediate results, because many of the most valuable actions do not bring instant rewards. An owner is willing to invest effort in quiet improvements, patiently building a foundation that will support lasting success. A crucial element of this mindset is the spirit of personal responsibility. When problems arise, the owner does not rush to find someone to blame. Instead, they ask, "What can I do to fix this?" Or, "Next time, how can I prevent this from happening?" They see responsibility not as a burden, but as an opportunity to prove competence and strengthen credibility. Taking ownership also allows them greater control over the situation. When you claim a problem as your own, you act to change it instead of standing aside and waiting for others to intervene. Ownership is also shown in the ability to spot opportunities and gaps others ignore. It is seeing a process that can be streamlined, a potential risk that should be prevented, or a resource that could be used more effectively. Instead of dismissing it because "it's not my job," they act because they care more about the final outcome than the limits of their job description. This initiative makes them indispensable in any environment. Owners also know that trust is not earned through talk, but by consistently proving themselves through action. They maintain high standards even when no one is watching, driven not by external pressure, but by an internal commitment to quality. When others can rely on them to deliver excellence without reminders, they have gained one of the most valuable assets: trust. Stoic philosophy encourages everyone to be the steward of their own life, because no one else can take on that role for you. This means you do not let yourself be fully defined by your environment, your title, or others' instructions. You set your own standards, establish your own principles, and align your actions with them. Living this way makes you less dependent on external validation, because you know your worth from what you create and how you create it. The ownership mindset also comes with an awareness of long-term impact. Every decision, no matter how small, is an investment in the future. Improving a process today might save time and effort for years to come. A solution implemented now could form the foundation for greater growth later. This awareness makes you more deliberate in your choices and more committed to plans with long-term significance, rather than chasing short-term wins for immediate gratification. Ultimately, the mindset of ownership not only helps you advance in your work or career, it shapes your personal life as well. When you begin to see every area as something you can improve, you start turning problems into opportunities. You are no longer limited by what you are allowed to do, but are motivated by what you can do. This is true freedom, born from the realization that your life is the greatest project you will ever manage, and you are its ultimate decision maker. 6. Choosing the right companions. Human beings are social creatures, and whether we like it or not, we are deeply influenced by those closest to us. Your environment is not just the physical space you live in, it is also the psychological and emotional atmosphere you breathe every day. The people you regularly interact with are like invisible mirrors, reflecting and reshaping your attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors. If you are surrounded by those with narrow vision, who give up easily, or who constantly complain, you will, sooner or later, start seeing the world through their lens, even if that was never your intention. Stoic philosophy reminds us that the mind must be protected just as much as the body. Just as you would not choose to breathe polluted air, you should not allow yourself to be overly exposed to negative energy. Negativity does not need to be directly spoken to have an effect. Its mere presence in your environment can influence you. This is a quiet, gradual seepage that lowers your standards and adjusts your perspective to match the average of those around you. Choosing the right companions does not mean seeking perfect people. No one is perfect. What matters is finding those whose direction, values, and spirit align with the path you wish to follow. They do not have to be like you in every way, but their presence should push you to think bigger, live with more discipline, and face challenges more proactively. A true companion does not only support you when things are going well, they will also be honest enough to point out your mistakes when necessary, because they care more about your long-term growth than your short-term comfort. The Stoics also emphasized the importance of boundaries. There are relationships you cannot completely sever due to family or work obligations, but you can still control how much influence they have over you. This can be done by limiting time spent together, steering conversations in healthier directions, or simply keeping your mind from sinking with their harmful habits. Boundaries are not coldness, they are a way of protecting clarity of thought and emotional health. Another essential factor is to notice how you feel after each interaction. Ask yourself, how do I feel after spending time with this person? Do I feel more energized, motivated, and optimistic, or do I feel drained, doubtful, and pessimistic? The answer will reveal much about the quality of the relationship. How you feel after being with someone often reflects their long-term impact on you. Choosing the right companions helps you build an ecosystem that supports personal growth. In this ecosystem, each person contributes a unique strength. Someone who inspires, someone who challenges you, someone who sparks creativity, and someone who keeps you grounded against temptation. When surrounded by such a group, you feel safe to experiment, ready to face risks, and persistent in pursuing your goals because you know you are not walking alone. The Stoics understood that while inner strength is essential, the environment still plays a major role in sustaining resilience. Even the most disciplined person can have their willpower eroded if constantly surrounded by forces opposed to their values. Conversely, when you move alongside those with shared purpose, progress happens more naturally, as each step you take is amplified by the shared momentum of the group. Choosing the right companions is not selfish. It is part of personal responsibility. If you wish to live with purpose, you must protect your mind from influences that pull you off course. This not only helps you maintain clarity and stability, but also makes you a better companion for others. For only when you are supported by healthy relationships can you, in turn, help lift others in the same way. 7. Live what you know. Knowledge only holds real value when it is put into action. Many people spend countless hours reading, learning, and studying principles for right living, yet leave them dormant in the mind as mere concepts. The gap between knowing and living is where most people remain stuck. You can speak of discipline, perseverance, or courage, but if your daily actions do not reflect them, then what you know exists only at the level of awareness, not essence. Stoic philosophy emphasizes that the purpose of knowledge is to transform the way you live, not to stockpile ideas or memorable quotes. Understanding what is right is the first step, but the true power lies in bringing it into every decision, every reaction, every smallest act. When faced with difficulty, the real measure of growth is how you apply the principles you have learned. This is the shift from knowledge to action, from words to a living embodiment. Living what you know requires alignment between thought and behavior. This does not mean perfection or never making mistakes, but a commitment to adjusting so that your actions steadily draw closer to your beliefs. If you believe patience produces lasting results, then even in moments of urgency, you choose persistence over quick fixes. If you value integrity, then even when no one is watching, you uphold your standard. The greatest challenge is resisting the tendency to delay action until you feel ready. Many wait until they feel fully prepared, or until conditions are ideal before applying what they know. But in reality, that perfect moment never comes. Growth comes from acting even when you are uncertain, then learning and adjusting along the way. Each smallest step is proof that you are living in alignment with what you know. Another essential element is consistency. Living what you know is not a burst of action in a single moment, but the steady repetition of it over time. Daily choices, however small, accumulate to define who you become. When your actions repeatedly reflect your core principles, they begin to form instinct, allowing you to respond rightly, even in unexpected situations. The Stoics believe that philosophy is not for display on a wall or for boasting, but for practice. The truth is, you do not need more new knowledge if what you already know has yet to be fully lived. Every time you realize you have not applied a principle you know by heart, it is a reminder that the journey continues. And it is in these moments of self-reminder and self-correction that knowledge truly embeds itself into action. Ultimately, living what you know not only changes the results you achieve, it shapes who you are. When your actions match your beliefs, you feel more grounded and less shaken by circumstance. You no longer depend on praise or external validation to confirm your worth, because you know you have lived true to the principles you have chosen. And that is the most enduring strength anyone can build for their life. In my view, the greatest value of all the principles shared does not lie in their novelty, but in the power they hold when combined and applied consistently. Each lesson, whether it is looking beyond the present, ceasing to complain, committing to lifelong learning, or living what you know can stand on its own and produce positive results. But when they form a unified system, they create a solid foundation of thought, enabling a person not only to respond better to challenges, but to actively shape their own path. Stoic philosophy teaches that true strength is not the ability to change everything around you, but the ability to master your inner world so you can act with clarity and endurance. When you train yourself to unite thought and action, you are no longer swept away by the chaos of life or the standards of others. You live by the principles you have chosen, and that clarity shapes how the world sees you while granting you the deepest freedom of all, the freedom to be yourself in any circumstance. If this content has brought you value, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next message. Above all, let each day stand as proof that you not only know how to live rightly, you are truly living it. See you in the next video.